and welcome to this episode of Authentic Achievements, where it's my absolute privilege to be joined by the fabulous Alinka Rutkowska, who is the CEO of Leaders Press, a USA Today and Wall Street Journal best-selling press, where she creates books for entrepreneurs from scratch and launches them to bestseller with a 100% success rate, which is just outstanding. She also runs a hybrid publishing house with traditional distribution via Simon Schuster, through which more than 100 entrepreneurs have been able to share their stories and their wisdom in the world. 172 of the Leaders Press authors have become USA Today and Wall Street Journal best-selling authors. And on top of all of that, Alinka has been featured in Forbes, Entrepreneur Magazine, Entrepreneurs on Fire, and numerous other outlets. Her mission is to help 10,000 entrepreneurs share their wisdom with the world by 2030. But the bit I love most about not just all of your achievements, that on top of all of that, Alinka is a humorous girl, a friend, a mum, a wife, and someone you just want to hang out with, of which I'm so looking forward to having the opportunity to hang out with today. So Alinka, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Kim. Super excited to be here.
It's an absolute pleasure. I mean, what a journey. You've already achieved so much. But if you had to go back and kind of just summarize your journey so far, what would be your key takeaways?
I think a key takeaway is to follow your passion and find something in that area that excites you and that can be something that generates revenue for you. Don't just go for the revenue, because it's going to be a very miserable journey, but go after an area where your passion is. And I can talk a lot about that. On my publishing journey, I had some side things that I've tried, and that just was not a good idea. If your passion is not there, then it doesn't matter if you're bringing in some extra money. It's just not, if it's not aligned with your goals, your values, you're not excited. Don't do it. Do what you're excited about.
Oh, I love that. It's do what makes our soul sing, isn't it? It reminds me of the Pablo Picasso quote, which is the meaning of life is to find your gift, and the purpose of life is to give it away. So to find the thing that we're here to do that lights up our soul, and then to go out there and do that. And you do that so beautifully. And as well as that, allow with your passion to help other people to share their story, which must be amazing.
It is. It's a privilege to be able to share people's stories with the world.
It is. To be fair, I live the most blessed life because I get to do just that in my own small way through this show, getting people like you to come on and share your experiences, share the lessons. I mean, we call it authentic achievements, but not everything goes well, does it? We get our lessons often from the things that didn't quite go to plan. So could you tell us, has there been, what have been the biggest lessons you've learned so far?
The biggest lessons are, I think you have to learn when to persevere and when to pivot. Mm-hmm. So there are moments when you want to keep going, and even though things seem to be going sort of against you, you still find a way to move forward. It's important to remember that the path to success is not a straight line. There's ups and downs, and you might be in a sort of downward. You're going down slightly before you jump back up again. And so it's important to zoom out and to see where you possibly are, sort of from a helicopter view. But then it's also important to understand when to pivot, because if you're banging your head against the wall and, nothing's happening, then that might not be the best and most productive way to keep going. You need to adapt. So that's really Darwin's theory of survival. It's not the law of the fittest. I think it's the law of those who are able to adapt to the changing conditions best. So a fine balance between the two. Persevere and adapt. And then I think it's really important to find groups of people similar to you. I have a postcard on my desk that says, "Let your weird light shine bright so that other weirdos know where to find you."
I love that. That's
And
amazing.
I think this is so important because, my lifestyle for some people might be totally weird. So I'm for sure considered a weirdo to many. But it's important that I find other people just like me and hang out with them, and people who have a similar worldview and similar issues, so to speak. So if you can find those tribes and be part of those, that's really phenomenal. It's a game changer. And a mentor. So, success isn't that complicated. You just go to somebody who's already achieved it and ask for directions. People will help. You might be surprised how helpful some people are. One of my mentors is created a huge publishing company that he sold for hundreds of millions of dollars. And I just reached out to this person saying, hey, I'm a person that implements, and maybe you'd be willing to share your knowledge with me. And he was happy to. So, that was even without a financial arrangement. If I was supposed to pay for that, that would be equity, or that would be, way into six figures for how he's helping me. But you will find people who really want to just have some sort of feeling of being helpful. So it's important to reach out, and don't be afraid to get rejected. Because if you don't reach out, you're like, if you do reach out and you get rejected, or if you don't reach out, you're sort of in the same place. But if you reach out and get rejected, first of all, you might learn something. Then you can reach out to somebody else and find the ask, or get a yes. So it really makes sense to go out there and to ask the questions. If you need help, ask for help. If you need directions, ask for directions. Whatever it is, nobody's going to be as passionate about your business as you are.
No, that's so true, and such great advice in there, because I think it's right. Often we sit there, don't we? And we're like, well, I daren't ask because they'll be too busy, or they'll be this. But actually, if somebody asks us for help and support, it's really nice to give it, isn't it? You feel privileged to be able to go and share that advice. So you're like, well, hold on, either I really am the biggest weirdo in the world, or actually there'll be other people like me that also just want to help, that just want to provide that, that advice and that support, because it's nice to feel you were a part of somebody else's journey, isn't it?
That's exactly it. Yeah.
I love it. I loved also what you said about, kind of embracing your weirdness and finding your tribe. I remember for years, I'm British. I used to try and be everybody's cup of tea, which is ludicrous. I mean, we could argue about how we make our tea the same as we could about politics and religion. But then I found a quote, which has been the one I've lived by, which is, for the right, I'd rather be somebody's shot of whiskey than everybody's cup of tea, because for the right person, you'll be their shot of whiskey, and for everybody else, they're not your cup of tea. That's fine. They'll go and find their own shot of whiskey. But it's quite liberating, isn't it, when you can embrace your own weirdness and be comfortable enough to go and seek that in the world.
Yes, I totally agree.
Love that. So we've obviously learned about your lessons. What would you say is the thing you're most proud of so far?
I guess, I'm proud of what I created in terms of Leaders Press, the business and the lifestyle that comes with it. So it's great to have been able to create something from scratch. I don't come from an entrepreneurial family. I come from an academic family, an academic background, and the idea of, walking up the ladder and getting the next accolade. So sometimes I get to know people who come from entrepreneurial families, and I think like, wow, that's phenomenal to get all that support and inspiration. But hey, I didn't need that to create Leaders Press. So it feels good to have created something from scratch, from zero, literally from nothing, from idea. And now we're 3 people, a publishing house. We publish hundreds of authors, almost 200 got on the USA Today, Wall Street Journal bestseller list. We have an agreement, a distribution agreement with Simon Schuster. We put books in bookstores. So to have created this from scratch feels pretty when I look back.
You should be. I mean, what an amazing achievement. And not only have you built something up from scratch, you are a pivotal part of helping other people create their legacy, because books live on, don't they? They live on past us. So, you're creating an opportunity for people to not only put their wisdom out there, but to keep it out there for it to be their legacy, which must be an amazing thing, amazing gift to be able to give somebody.
It is. It's wonderful. We helped the co-founder of DL International tell his story of how he built the company from scratch to $1 billion corporation. That was for DHL's 50th anniversary. So that's a company that a lot of people know. But then we did a lot of stories of entrepreneurs who built companies that are maybe not known in the whole world, but are still number one in their niches. And, these stories are able to live on, so other entrepreneurs can learn from them, and so that they do leave a footprint and are able to tell their story with their own words, so that they are the ones that decide how they want to be remembered. And their wisdom lives on. So I remember my mom would always tell me about her uncle who had a sausage recipe, and it was amazing, and he took it with him to the grave. So don't take your wisdom to the grave, whether it's your sausage recipe or whether it's how to build a successful company or whatever, how to be happy, how to be a good parent, how to whatever you figured out. I think it's important to share it, because that's really how we've been able to grow through these centuries. It's by first it was stories that were told from generation to generation, and then we started writing them, and now we have this power to leave a legacy like this. So I would definitely, if you haven't yet, I would jump on it and get started on mine.
Oh, I love that. It's so true, isn't it? I've always said the one thing that connects us around the world, irrelevant of our age, our race, our gender, our culture, is that we all teach and we all learn in stories. As you've so eloquently put, we've been doing it since the dawn of time, with the cavemen drawings all the way through to, to these days. You can do it even through forums like this, can't you? But getting it out there, getting the story out there. And I always think if sharing our story helps just one person, then it's worth sharing our story, because if we all just helped one person, the world would already be a better place, wouldn't it? So your mission, which I love, to get to 10,000 people by 2030, how are you planning on approaching that?
Well, we do have a plan. We are numbers driven, so we know how many people we need to reach out to, how many people we need to get on calls, how many people we need to get into our funnel, so that then we can help them with their stories and with their message. So we did do the math, and that's how we plan to achieve that goal in 2030. We still have a couple of years.
I love it. So for anybody that's watching this show or listening to it, because we're both on radio and TV, what kind of person are you looking for? If this person's got a story inside them, how can we get them ready to unlock that and come and talk to you?
Right. So the type of person that we usually work with is a successful entrepreneur who'd like to either share their wisdom with the world in terms of legacy, so leave a footprint, legacy piece, or somebody who's looking to grow their business and wants to use their book as a lead generation tool or big business card. Another group of people that we work with are speakers who want books in order to increase their speaking fees, because then they get to come on stage as not just speaker, but speaker and best-selling author. And we can do USA Today or Wall Street Journal best-selling author. So speakers that have books have doubled their prices. That's a good way to go. And the best way to get started is if you go to leaderspress.com/discover, you'll be able to go through a 1-minute quiz that will tell you what type of book you should be doing, whether lead generator or the legacy piece, or maybe a chapter in an anthology. So depending on your goals, in 1 minute, it will tell you what you what would be a good fit for you. And also you'll get a copy of my book entitled Outsource Your Book. Those are the 17 steps to creating a best-selling book. The origin of that book is an article in Entrepreneur magazine, and now it's an audiobook as well. So you get all that when you go to leaderspress.com/discover.
Oh, amazing. And it's such a great journey, isn't it? Going from, thinking about being part of a book to then being part of a book to then writing your whole own. But it is a journey, isn't it? It's having that courage to take that first step, to take that leap of faith and trusting that your knowledge is valuable. What you've learned has taken you a while. I do with clients all the time who go, oh, Kim, that takes me 10 minutes. It's like, but it took you 30 years to learn how to do it in 10 minutes. So the value that you bring is the 30 years experience, not the 10 minutes that it takes you to do something. It's how you help the next person not have to spend 30 years learning it, because they can shortcut it through your learning.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that. So if you had to go back and give the younger Alinka some advice, what would it be?
I think to just keep going. Things always work out, and I think it's important to enjoy the journey. I was very goal-driven for many years, and didn't really pay a lot of attention to enjoying the journey. And so now I'm much more about doing love, also really appreciating various segments of the day, because that's what our life is consists of. It's you could say day after day, but it's also segment after segment after segment. So we're doing this now, and I am enjoying it. And then I'm going to be doing, have another segment a day, and I will be enjoying it and just being conscious about it. So both work-wise and outside. So if you're having a cup of coffee with friends, then be mindful of what a great moment this is, that, you're surrounded by these great people. Or if you're by yourself, and say, hey, it's so great to have a moment for myself. Nobody's wanting anything in this moment. So just being mindful of it, because if you're not mindful of it, it's just these days pass by and you're on the treadmill, not stopping for a second. So just consciously appreciating and knowing that you're never really gonna get it done, because as soon as you achieve that goal that you have in front of you, you're gonna set another one. So in the end, it's the journey is important. The journey is as important as the destination. And what's the destination, right? At the end, we're just gonna walk out of this life, right? That's the destination, I guess. So let's enjoy it.
I love that. It's such great advice, because it's right, isn't it? Often we're so busy chasing where we're going that we forget to be present to the present. And that's where often the greatest gifts are, aren't they? In those moments, I've become so much more present since I became a mum. When you look at the wonder in their eyes and realize, you're doing the school walk and you're thinking, I'm nearly late and I've got to get you here. I've got all these things to do. And then you watch them getting totally distracted because there's a butterfly that they just want to be able to look at and tell you about. And you think, actually, it's not going to change the world if I just stop and be present in that moment. But we're creating an amazing memory and a connection with the people around us, whether that's our children, whether it's our friends, whether it's the people that we meet in business. But being in the moment can be the greatest gift, can't it?
Yeah.
I love that. So I could chat to you all day, but I'm very conscious of your time as well. So what do you think is next for you? I mean, you talked about the fact when you get a goal, you think you're going to move on to the next one. I know you're passionate about this one, but are there other things that you've got in mind for your next goals?
I'm very consistent, and my goal is to grow Leaders Press, to help more entrepreneurs share their wisdom with the world, create more books, and all the consequences of that. So it's great to have a thriving business if we're going through a difficult moment, because when you're growing, growing sounds like fun, but there are some downsides to being in the growth phase. So just really understanding where we are on our journey, and yes, going after that next goal, because I do have a next goal, and then there's going to be a goal after that. And it's all linked to growing Leaders Press right now. And as I'm doing this, just being more and more conscious of enjoying it. I'm also, I'm not the type of person who feels like you grow by putting in more hours or, working harder. I'm much more about leveraging the skills of the team and growing without increasing my workload or my time involved. So as we become a bigger and bigger company, I want to be spending less and less time working. I don't really call it work because it's fun, but just have more and more free time. So I hang out with the people who have this type of mindset.
I love that. Yeah, it's one of the things I help my clients with is how do we move you from working in the business to working on the business? Because as you grow, sometimes you can get pulled into the weeds, can't you? And it's like, actually, how do you change that so that you can do the bits where your soul shines and you can still grow, but actually it's not pivotal to you. There was a lady I interviewed last week, Michelle Seeler Tucker, who explained it beautifully, that so many businesses, particularly in America, I think it was 80%, she said, that actually exit poor. They don't exit rich. And that's because the whole business is pivotal around the owner of the business, and you take the owner out and the business disappears. And so, her advice is what you're doing, which is to think about the end in sight, which is what happens when I'm not in it. How do we make sure it goes on? It's the legacy. It continues to grow. Because that's the part that's more important than the piece of you being in it. I am so, so grateful to you for sharing your journey with us. I'd love you to come back on and keep us updated, let us know how you're getting on. And I will also make sure that in the notes below is all the details of how anybody out there that's got a burning desire to get your knowledge out there for a legacy, to take that leap, to be part of a book or to have an entire book, then do get in touch with Alinka. We'll make sure that all of her contact details are in the link. Alinka, thank you so very much. I hope you will come back on and see us again. And I look forward to hearing more of your successes.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Kim. And thank you, everybody, for watching and listening.
It's been a pleasure. Take care.